And good morning, friends. Welcome to The Bright Side. I am Pharmacist Ben. 844-236-6010 is our number, as always, on The Bright Side. We love hearing from you. If you have questions, comments, success stories you'd like to share, if you just want to contribute to the conversation, 844-236-6010 is our number on The Bright Side. We'll be talking to Penelope Jean Hayes and Carol Serene about their books, The Likely Future. At the bottom of the hour, we'll talk a little COVID. We'll talk a little bit about the future. They're channelers and mediums, and Penelope in particular has a background in health. We'll talk about the magic of viral energy, the ancient key to happiness. We'll talk some COVID-19. We'll talk some likely future about her books, their books, The Likely Future Part 1 and The Likely Future Part 2. Bottom of the hour, we'll get your calls next segment, 844-236-6010. If you want to purchase longevity products, please go to brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. If you want to sign up to join the Brightside Ben team and start yourself a longevity business, a home-based business is always a good idea, but especially now with all the uncertainty in the economy, starting a home-based business is always a good idea, especially a home-based business that helps change the world. And change the world indeed is what longevity can do. Longevity products and the longevity philosophy of good health can do. If that sounds intriguing, interesting, or if you'd just like some more information, call 866-735-2470 or click on the Join the Team link at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. That's 866-735-2470 for more info, or the Join the Team link at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. All right, Penelope Jean Hayes and Carol Serene will be with us about their books, The Likely Future, Part 1 and 2. And we'll get your calls in our next segment, 844-236-6010. So we've been talking about this whole idea of fungus and yeast and antibiotics and mushrooms. Last program, we left off talking about vaccines. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, by the way. I know a lot of people who are anti-vaxxers, and I know a lot of listeners here are anti-vaxxers. But anti-vaxxers just doesn't sound rational to me. It sounds kind of like politically motivated. And maybe there's some politics that are involved with vaccination. Recently, we've become just flooded with news about vaccines. It seems like there's a big push to get people vaccinated. And if you warn about the potential issues or the toxicities with vaccines, you're immediately labeled as an anti-vaxxer by the mainstream. In fact, according to an article, this is from Dr. Mercola, whose work I love, by the way. I've been reading Dr. Mercola around for almost 20 years. He has an article here about, and Dr. Mercola, by the way, is considered to be a major threat by the mainstream medical model. His article here, Digital Anti-Hate Group labels vaccine skeptics as a national security threat. And in this article, he quotes the Times, which is a UK publication from November 9th, 2020, quote, "The British government regards tackling false information about COVID-19 vaccination as a rising priority." The Times goes on to say, quote, "The government regards tackling false information about inoculation as a rising priority as the prospect of a reliable vaccine against the coronavirus draws closer." This is a month before the vaccine came out. Continues. The government source says GCHQ, that is I don't know what GCHQ is, actually, has been told to take out anti-vaxxers online and on social media. There are ways they have used to monitor and disrupt terrorist propaganda. Apparently the idea that vaccination is anything less than a good health strategy is regarded as terrorism. It's disinformation from a hostile government. There's actually a report published by the Center for Countering Digital Hate called the Anti-Vaxx Playbook that tells people how the anti-vaxxers are a hate group and how the anti-vaxxers are trying to disrupt good health. Quote, "Anti-vaxxers' deadly plan to disrupt COVID vaccines and how we can stop them." Unquote. This is the Anti-Vaxx Playbook put out by the Center for Countering Digital Hate. Their website is counterhate.com. The way this is all divided into political factions just doesn't serve us. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I think people should be able to understand what exactly a vaccine does. If you want to vaccinate, go ahead and vaccinate. That's not a problem. But we have to be frank about what vaccines are, what they're not, what's in them. Does anybody really know what's in these vaccines? I have a book here, textbook. It's not anything you'll see at Barnes & Noble. It's a textbook put out by Wiley Blackwell, which is the big textbook manufacturing company. It cost me $200 to get this textbook. It's called Vaccines and Autoimmunity. It's a bunch of peer-reviewed articles. It's about 300 pages or so. And it's not easy reading, admittedly, but it's good stuff here. Vaccinations and rheumatoid arthritis. Vaccinations and systemic lupus erythematosus, lupus. Influenza vaccine and autoimmune diseases. These are articles that are published, peer-reviewed publications, or they're published in peer-reviewed publications. These are science. I'm not some freakazoid about being an anti-vaxxer, but we have to be honest about what the things are and what they do and what the potential problems are. There's times for using drugs. I've said this many times. There's times for using drugs. I am trained in medicine. I know there's times for using drugs. If you have an infection, yes, you may need an antibiotic. But that doesn't mean that you just take antibiotics all the time. Pain pills can be important if you have pain, but that doesn't mean you just take pain pills and not have to worry about being addicted or being worried about toxicities or side effects or constipation or anything that comes with it. You may need a medication in the short term because you've been abusing your body for a long time, so you may need an anti-inflammatory. You may need a beta blocker. You may need an immune suppressant in the short term. If I had my kidney transplant, I probably would have to take an immune suppressant. But your goal should be always, if possible, to get off that medication as soon as you can. If I was going to Africa, I'd want a malaria vaccine. If I was going to be visiting a tropical jungle where I might be exposed to a virus that I didn't have immunity to, I probably would think about taking a vaccine for tropical viruses. Pharmacalizing is sometimes a necessary evil, that's true, but it's never a good thing. Pharmacalizing, taking medication, is sometimes necessary, but it's never good. In the case of vaccines, we don't think of them as medications. We don't think of them as drugs. If your option is to get a virus, get a cold virus, a COVID-19, I'm not talking about Ebola. If we had an Ebola outbreak and everybody was getting Ebola, where your blood vessels explode and you hemorrhage to death, and it affects 30% of people or some ridiculous amount of people, if 30% of people were getting sick or being hospitalized or dying, that's one thing. But if you have a mild infection for most people, and the option is to get stuff stuck into your arm, as they say, jab into your arm. That's what they say, jab it into your arm. Or to get a virus, you might want to think about, do I really want this thing? But we've got this vaccine that everybody is being almost compelled to, not yet, but almost compelled to, at least from psychological perspective, to take, to avoid getting a cold virus, which is essentially a cold virus for the vast majority of people. We just want to be rational about this. You don't want to be a freak about it. You just want to be rational. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. 844-236-6010 is our number. Got lines open for you. We'll be back on the bright side right after this. Back on the bright side. I am Pharmacist Ben. Thanks for joining us. We'll be talking to the channelers of PAX, Penelope Jean Hayes and Carol Serene, about their books, The Likely Future. At the bottom of the hour, we'll get your calls this segment if we have calls, 844-236-6010. So everybody's talking about this vaccine. Seems to be this concerted push to get needles in people's arms. That's what the media tells us. First of all, if you hear something about health, this is a rule of thumb. If you hear something about health on CNN and MSNBC and Fox News, you hear it everywhere, be suspicious. If the mainstream is telling you something about health, just be suspicious. Don't necessarily be skeptical. Healthy skepticism. You don't have to freak out about it. Just be healthily skeptical. They're all telling you, if all the government talking heads and all the mainstream representatives of the mainstream medical model and all the media are in lockstep, unison, are completely unified in a single message, be on red alert. And this idea that we all have to line up to get this vaccine that's being promoted as a cure, we'll talk about this in a second, it's being promoted as a force field that the virus bounces off of. This should cause people to just have their eyes wide open. What are they trying to say to us here? Vaccines. This vaccine is not a typical vaccine. That's first and foremost. This is a brand spanking new mechanism that's never been done before and was hardly tested This thing was green lighted much faster than an ordinary vaccine. Most vaccines take years. This thing was green lighted in weeks. And make no mistake about it, the first people to take this are the guinea pigs. The first people to take this are the experiment. This is a super high-tech vaccination that is very different from ordinary vaccines. All vaccines would stimulate an immune response. They give you the bad guy. It's called an antigen. Bad guy's an antigen. This antigen stimulates your immune system. And the old vaccines, they give you a virus, or they call it an attenuated virus, or a weakened, or even a killed virus, or a killed bacteria. And that stimulates your immune system. This is a different thing entirely. This is an mRNA vaccine which hijacks your cell's genetic machinery. It goes into all the cells of your body. This has never been done before. First time. And it is a very odd, very high-tech and very unusual way to stimulate the immune system. Instead of giving you the poison, you make the poison. Instead of giving you the antigen, you make the antigen. Your cells make the antigen. Does that sound good to anybody? Your cells make the poison. Your cells make the spike protein, they call it. Coronaviruses are everywhere, okay? Coronaviruses are everywhere. Coronaviruses are common. There's not a big deal. They're very weak viruses ordinarily. Coronaviruses are highly transmissible. They transmit. They spread. That's well known, but they're ordinarily very weak. This weird one, and this is a whole other mystery, how this happened, has a spike protein that makes it more potent. It makes it affect a part of the body, without getting into too much chemistry. It makes it affect a part of the body that can cause some problems, some serious problems, much more than ordinary coronaviruses. How this coronavirus developed a spike protein, nobody knows. That's a whole other issue, but we won't go there. So anyway, this coronavirus has a spike protein. So now this spike protein causes a problem. So now they figured out how to make your cells, via hijacking the genetics, the RNA, the mRNA, not the DNA yet. There's other vaccines that are DNA vaccines. This is the mRNA component, which makes the protein, and they give it to you. It enters into the cells, and now your cells make the spike protein, the part that's causing all the problems. Then your immune system reacts to that spike protein. So that means that this vaccine is not just getting into your bloodstream; it's getting into the cells. It's changing the way cells produce proteins. This is huge, 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 huge. The active component, the genetics that they're giving you, compels your cells to make the viral proteins, essentially turning your cell into a viral protein factory. And at this point, you get an antibody response because now your body sees this spike protein. The antibodies to the infection, the antibodies will keep you, the antibodies that your body makes will keep you from getting bad symptoms. But keep in mind here, this does not prevent infection. This does not prevent transmission. It prevents symptoms. So you don't have as bad, your symptoms aren't as bad, but you can still spread. You can still spread it. You can still get infected. People think they take the vaccine, all of a sudden I'm not going to be infected. I got a magical force field. This is all, by the way, the end result of our inability as a culture and as individuals in the culture to critically think. We do not think. The average person doesn't think. Present company excluded because you're listening to this program, but your neighbors don't. Your neighbors aren't listening to this program, and they're not thinking. Not all of them, but a lot of them. The mass majority of Americans do not critically think. They actually believe they'll get the vaccine and all will be good. They can go to the store and they can go to concerts and they can go on the plane. Leaving aside the fact that we're probably in the future will have to get vaccinated, and don't put it past the mainstream to compel everybody to get vaccinated. That might happen. You may not be able to shop or go to restaurants or go to concerts or fly on a plane or get on a bus unless you're vaccinated. That might happen. That's just what we got to deal with. And the reason we got to deal with it is most people aren't critically thinking. They're just buying what they're told. So this vaccine does not prevent you from getting infected necessarily. It might, but we don't know. And the only thing we know is it prevents or reduces symptomology. Oh, and by the way, you hear 95% 95% effective. Does anybody even know what that means? Does anybody out there, including your medical professionals, the majority of them, know what 95% effective means? It means they took about 40,000 people, tested them, and of the 100 people that got sick, 5 of them were protected by a vaccine. 95%, 95 of them weren't. And somehow, I still can't get my mind around how they did it, but they figured out that means it's 95% effective. If you're confused, join the club. They took 40,000 people, tested them. 100 people got sick. 5 of them, the people who got sick, were vaccinated. 95% weren't. Thus, they came up with the number 95% effective. I still can't figure out what that means. And then there's a whole nother issue with vaccines. And this vaccine is not quite as bad as other vaccines, but it still has a problem. That's the stuff that's in them that has nothing to do with their intended effect. There's other things in there that you're putting right into your bloodstream, aside from the mRNA. The mRNA is wrapped around in a complex cocktail of fats that is supposed to protect the RNA, and you're sticking it in your blood. And in other vaccines, which are worse, they have to put preservatives. These don't have preservatives in them necessarily, these mRNA vaccines, but other ones have to have preservatives. Thimerosal, mercury, right in your bloodstream. And then there's the whole issue of adjuvants, quote, helpers, unquote. ADJUVANTS, adjuvant. Talk about that on our next Bright Side episode. And I'm not an anti-vaxxer. There's times maybe you need a vaccine. I'm not against drugs. There's times maybe you need drugs. We just want to be critically thinking. We want to know what we're doing here. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. 844. We got Penelope, Jean Hayes, and Carol Serene coming up in our next segment. You're listening to The Bright Side. We'll be back after this. All right, we're back on The Bright Side. I am Pharmacist Ben. Unfortunately, Penelope, Jean Hayes, and Carol will not be with us, so you'll have me for the next half hour and your phone calls, hopefully, at 844-236-6010. If you have questions, comments, or success stories you'd like to share. I was kind of looking forward to talking to Carol, who's a former nurse, about the COVID vaccine, but I don't know why she bailed, but she did. So anyway, we'll talk to you and continue talking about this whole idea of vaccines and autoimmunity, which is kind of a big deal here. If you Google vaccinations and autoimmunity, you're going to get a lot of peer-reviewed, published research, scientific research, and it's got a lot to do with not just the active ingredients in the vaccine, but also the helpers, the adjuvants, etc. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Just want to remind you to check out our Truth Skin Health products if you're interested in checking out the absolute finest in skin care. And when I say finest, I know what I'm talking about. I've been doing this formulating business now since 1991, actually since 1982 when I worked for the Blistex Corporation. As a pharmacy student, I had my internship hours. While my colleagues were off getting their internship hours in drugstores, I was getting my internship hours in the Blistex lab, working with Dr. Tony Jones, who was a pharmacist and a medicinal chemist, and the inventor of Blistex, among other very powerful and effective over-the-counter skincare products, skincare medications. Blistex was just one of Dr. Jones's inventions. He also had a product called Cank A, which is still available. You can use it for canker sores. He had another product called Foil Ointment, which is a burn product. That's where I learned how to formulate burn products, and my Truth Omega-6 Healing Cream was a burn product. It was based on it was based on the concepts or the idea of foil ointment, F-O-I-L-L-E, foil ointment. The active ingredient in foil ointment was corn oil, believe it or not. And Dr. Jones had discovered, he was a pharmacist in the 1930s and 40s in San Antonio, Texas, and he had a compounding pharmacy where he made skincare products. That's where I got the idea to start my compounding pharmacy. My skincare compounding pharmacy. And anyway, Dr. Jones figured out somehow that corn oil was good for burns, and he created a product called Foil Ointment, which was based in corn oil. He also was involved with the discovery of benzoyl peroxide, and he was just an incredible human being. He passed away about 10 years ago or so. And anyway, one day I was walking through the basement of the School of Pharmacy in Boulder, Colorado, as a 22-year-old chemistry geek. And I remember I was just not happy with pharmacy school, because in pharmacy school, the first year, all you do is study the names of drugs and their generic equivalents, and you study a lot about toxicities and side effects. And my idea was to help people, and I wanted to be doing chemistry. And I was kind of frustrated and just with the idea of pharmacy school. And I was walking through the basement, just kind of meandering around and loitering, I guess. And I smelled this pepperminty smell coming out of one of the rooms. And I walk into the room, and it's like a laboratory. It was like this incredible, just classic, iconic lab with Erlenmeyer flasks and beakers and hot plates and there were ovens, and there was shelves of ingredients, and it was just this really cool looking place. And there was a little old man tinkering around some beakers in the corner, and I just went over and started chatting and talking to him. And it turns out that this little old man was Dr. Tony Jones, famous celebrity. He had been a professor. He was retired at the time, so then they had given him a laboratory because he was kind of famous. And Blistex, the Blistex Corporation, which is in Chicago or outside Chicago, they paid the university a bunch of money. They gave the university a bunch of money, and in return the university gave Dr. Jones and Blistex Corporation a lab where he would research and develop Blistex products. Back then there were only 3 Blistex products. There was a tube, there was a jar, and there was an ointment. And he was researching and developing new Blistex products. And after talking to Dr. Jones for, I don't know, half hour, 20 minutes, he just asked me if I wanted to be his research assistant. And I was like, are you kidding me? And next thing I know, I'm in the lab doing research for Dr. Jones. My job was literally to come in after school and make his formulas. He'd have a stack of formulas. He would type them up on an IBM Selectric, big blue typewriter. Some of you guys may remember the old IBM Selectrics. He'd type them up, and I would come in after school, and I would make his formulas for him. And long story short, I learned a lot about how you formulate skincare products. I test skincare products. I learned about the lips, a lot about the lips. One of my jobs was to go to the library and research lips. Back then, this was the 1980s, there wasn't a lot of information about skincare. We didn't really know a lot about skincare until the 90s, until the 2000s. And I just learned everything you could possibly want to know about ingredients and formulations and testing and skin and lips. And then I graduated pharmacy school, and after working in drugstores, which I hated for a little bit, I started formulating skincare products for people and started my own compounding pharmacy for the skin. And that was 1991. And since then, I have learned a lot about how you formulate skincare products, and a lot about ingredients, and a lot about how you take care of your skin. Internally as a from a nutritional perspective, and externally from a topical perspective. And Truth Treatments represent the culmination of everything I've learned in the world of skincare. You can check out all the products at truthtreatments.com. One of the things I learned is that most skincare products are baloney. Most skincare products are 90% water, 80 to 90% water, and then another 5 or 6 or even up to 10% silicone and vegetable oil and wax and preservatives. So I took all that stuff out because I thought, what the heck is that doing in my skincare product, and why do I need it on my skin? Truth Treatments are 100% active and functional ingredients. Every molecule in a Truth Treatment does something for your skin. It's either active or it helps support the activity of the active materials. It's either a transdermal support ingredient or an active ingredient. That's really the secret, and that's why you use such tiny amounts, and that's why you get such incredible benefits. Our products are extremely potent and extremely active. And when I say active and potent, I'm talking not just for anti-aging, not just for moisturization, not just for making your skin look and feel healthier, but for healing cuts and scrapes and wounds and burns, etc. Truth Treatments are healing products. They heal the skin. Healing is beauty. You can't have beauty without health. Healing/health is beauty. Healthy skin is beautiful skin. Truth Treatments are health products for the skin that make your skin more beautiful. And if you don't believe me, go to truthreviewed.com, truthreviewed.com, and check out 1,500 plus 4- and 5-star reviews. I'm still blown away by the kind of reviews we get. Truthreviewed.com for our 1,500 plus 4- and 5-star reviews, and truthtreatments.com for all our Truth Skin Health products. All right, so let's see if I should get to the phone here. I'm going to take a phone call. I do want to talk some more about this whole idea of vaccinations. And I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I want to be very clear. I'm not going to be out there picketing and rioting, and I'm not an activist. But I'm just a rational scientist, and I'm a pharmacist, and I'm a healthcare professional. And I say we want to be rational about what we're injecting into our blood. When you inject something into your bloodstream through the skin, you're bypassing all of the body's inherent detoxification mechanisms. You know, when you take a prescription drug, they have to give you a higher dose of the prescription drug than you really need. That's because when you take a prescription drug, it goes into your stomach, it goes into your intestine, it goes into your bloodstream, and then it goes into your liver. And the liver clears that prescription drug. And then if there's a little bit left over, that's the stuff that does the work. In pharmacy school or pharmacology, that's called the first pass effect. The first pass effect is the liver purifying the drug, because the body doesn't want the drug. It's going to purify it. So what they have to do is they have to account for that in your dosing, and you have to get a much higher dose than your body really needs to account for the first pass effect. But if you inject something directly into your blood, you don't get the first pass effect. You don't get the liver detoxification. It goes right into the blood, which means you have to be very, very serious and very respectful and pay close attention to things that are getting into the bloodstream right through the skin. And if it's a foreign substance, of course it can initiate an immune reaction that can show up as autoimmunity. It's obvious if you understand the nature of the immune system. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. We'll get your phone calls when we come back from our break, 844-236-6010. We'll be back after this. Okay, we are back on the bright side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We'll get your calls in just a sec, 844-236-6010. You can purchase longevity products at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, and criticalhealthnews.com. Truth Skin Health products at truthtreatments.com. Also our Facebook page, The Bright Side with Pharmacist Ben. We've got posts up as well, and it's a good opportunity for you to ask questions if you can't call or you don't want to call. A lot of people don't want to call. But if you have questions, you can go to our Facebook page. And I haven't done any Facebook Lives on our Facebook page, The Bright Side with Pharmacist Ben, but we do post our Truth Treatment Facebook Lives up there as well. Thanks, Nasima, for setting that one up. And also, if you want to review a program or check out a program that you missed or review a topic, go to the search engine at benfuchsarchives.com. Thank you to Peter in the UK for setting that one up. And also, you can go to brightsideben.com. We have a search engine there as well. And the longevity products are up at criticalhealthnews.com, pharmacistben.com, and brightsideben.com. And also we have interviews and blog posts and news stories at brightsideben.com and also criticalhealthnews.com. All right, so tomorrow we'll continue talking about vaccines. I want to talk about the adjuvants, the helpers, if you will, what they are, why you want to be concerned about them when you're sticking them in your blood, right into your bloodstream through your skin. You always want to be paying attention to stuff that's going into your bloodstream through your skin. Always, always, always. And the simplicity, the simple-mindedness of the messaging from the mainstream medical model and from the mass media about vaccinations belies the fact that you are now bypassing the body's detoxification system in the liver to put stuff directly into your bloodstream. I wonder if any of these talking head numbskulls and that are on TV telling us about sticking stuff in our arm know what they're talking about sticking into your arm. Know about the stuff they're talking about sticking into your arm. Anyway, 844-236-6010. Let's go to Don in Georgia and say good morning. What's up, Don? How you doing, man?
Ben, long time. How you doing?
Yeah, I missed you. You're one of my smart callers. You always got something interesting to say. What's going on today?
So here's a question I have. I won't get into this vaccine thing because it'll take too long. But really quick, I've been dealing with this skin crisis for a while now.
Yeah. Tell our listeners, remind me and remind our listeners. I vaguely remember what it was, but I remember talking about skin.
They called it atopic dermatitis or whatever.
Got it.
Whatever they give it, I think it had more to do with stress, diet, and digestion.
Well, hang on to that thought, because you are a smart guy. What does atopic mean?
Atopic means it's on top of the skin.
No. Opposite.
I'm sorry, the opposite. Atopic means it's not on top of the skin.
Correctamundo. Exactly. That means you have a dermatitis that's caused by something that's not topical. It's right in the name, right? It's So you said it's diet and stress, etc. It's right in the name, atopic. Right. They tell you that. But of course, what do they give you? They give you topical.
Steroids and topical steroids.
Right.
Yep.
All right. Isn't that crazy? It's right in the name, atopic dermatitis. So go ahead. I'm sorry, Don.
So I've been working with all of those things: digestion, stress, all of these above.
Is it getting better? Are you getting better? Good.
Much.
Okay,
it took a while. It took a while. I've just been changing, back to the diet and all of that. But something is very interesting that I'm finding is that, you get the itchy skin, right? What I found was Spirit told me one day, don't itch, massage. And when I did that,
I like that. I like when Spirit talks to you like that. Spirit can tell you a lot of things, can it? It gives you a lot of information. That's good. Good for you, Don. So I told you to massage, not itch. I love that.
Right. And when it did, and I massaged these areas, and, itching appears everywhere. Inside the thighs, on calves, ankles, wherever.
Lymph.
But every time I would massage, it's lymph, isn't it? That's what I thought.
Yes, it's lymph.
But every time I would massage, I would release massive amounts of gas.
Oh, my goodness. That's an awesome story. That's excellent.
And the more gas I release over the months, my skin has gotten better.
That's awesome, Don. I know, man. You are a smart dude. That is awesome. Mm-hmm. So you massage the lymph and your digestive system. You release toxins, basically, and then you feel better. Yeah. My skin stops itching. And that's amazing.
It's been a few months, and now the skin is a lot better. So I just have to be careful of what I'm eating.
You got to be careful what you're eating. The thing about eating is, and I know you're experiencing this. We know what we should be eating and not, but our brain part of our brain that likes pleasure overrides that internal knowing. I do it myself, right?
Yeah.
Like something's going to be a problem, but I don't even know if it's your brain. It's like your taste buds, basically. If you could if you could imagine having your tongue numb, you would probably eat a lot less food, right?
Yeah, and it's emotional.
Emotional too. Yeah, emotional too, like boredom or stress, like you say.
Yeah.
I find, it's a distraction. Eating is kind of like a distraction. It's a distraction that's acceptable. When you drive, notice next time you're driving down the highway, we're in Georgia. I imagine you're in a big city in Georgia, or you're a little town?
No, I'm in the suburbs.
In the suburbs of Atlanta?
Yeah, I'm about half hour outside of the city.
All right. Next time you're on the highway there, I forgot what the main highway is. I've been in Atlanta for a while. Notice how many signs there are for food. It's like impossible. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. We are bombarded with messaging about food. So even if it's a problem, if you're not strong enough to withstand that bombardment, it's impossible not to pull into a fast food joint or a 7-Eleven or even a grocery store, even a Whole Foods. Even Whole Foods, which I go to, half of the stuff in Whole Foods is crap. And that's even a Whole Foods or a health food store. It's still going to be processed food. It is so hard to withstand this bombardment, this steady drumbeat and bombardment of food messaging. TV, television. How many commercials do you see about food? And they know just how to present that Carl's Jr. burger or that Kentucky Fried Chicken. So your mouth will automatically water, even though you know it's disgusting and you don't want it. Right? You ever notice how slow? You ever notice how slow the camera pans over food? It never happens fast. Why is that? Because the slowness activates an alpha brainwave state. And that alpha brainwave state makes you more susceptible, makes you more suggestible. You notice next time you're watching food, it always is very slow. And the brain detects that speed, that slowness, or perceives that slowness as an activator of the alpha brainwave state, which is the hypnotic brainwave state. And under that state, we're more susceptible, and the messaging just comes into our brain and bypasses our critical judgment. It bypasses our ability to critically think. Right? Watch it the next time.
That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing with these memes, with the whole virus thing. It's like social engineering.
Social engineering. When you watch somebody on TV who's giving you the news, you are literally in a hypnotic state when you watch their face and their eyes. That puts you, just watching the head, head on TV puts you into a hypnotic state and makes you suggestible. And this is where our ability to critical think becomes so important, because we can protect ourselves. That's how we inoculate ourselves against viruses, mind viruses, is by critically thinking, examining. There's a whole science called epistemology. You ever hear the science of epistemology? It's how it's the science of knowledge. It's the science of how you know what you know. It's actually a science. How do you know what you know? We all know things, but how do we know what we know? How do we accumulate information? How do we verify it? How do we analyze it? How do we accept it? And these are all things that we have an ability to do. It's not like we have to be victims. It's not like we have to buy into everything, but we have to critically think. That's our inoculation. Man, I love talking to you, Don. Thank you so much, and that's a great tip.
You're welcome. Ben, before you go,
I hadn't thought of that.
Before you go, So being that, I'm pretty sure you said the lymph system, and I thought that. I said, this must be my lymph.
Yes, your lymph.
So does that mean I should just be doing as much as I can to move the lymph?
Heck yes, Don. Absolutely. And I hadn't thought of that, but I'm going to start to tell people what you just told me about massaging the lymph area when you have a skin problem. Very helpful. But massage therapists call that lymphatic drainage, and estheticians will actually do that. They'll do facial lymphatic drainage, but we can do it all ourselves. I always thought, Don, and I got to go here in a sec, but I always thought that if we really cared about health in this country, we would have national massage insurance, where everybody gets a massage, right? Everybody gets a massage, 2 massages a month. Vote for me for president, and I will guarantee every American gets 2 massages a month. All right, Don, got to go. Thank you so much, man. Have a beautiful day. Appreciate it. Appreciate talking to you. All right. And that's all the time we have for today on The Bright Side. Thank you for listening, friends. I am Pharmacist Ben. Check out our websites, brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, and criticalhealthnews.com for the longevity products, and truthtreatments.com for all our Truth Skin Health products. Have yourselves a wonderful, beautiful, awesome, spectacular day. We'll talk to you later, folks. Bye for now.